So, how do you take a pose like this, which seems pretty basic? It's just a man standing with a staff, and he's got a cool cloak, cool looking outfit. I think it's interesting, but how can you take a pose like this and push it to make it something more interesting? I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Nah, just kidding. Okay, we're gonna figure it out. So, first, the way that I would approach this problem is start by drawing the pose as is, or a basic version of the pose. And I am using Procreate and Jeff's Fine Pencil from my custom brush set, which you can find in the description down below. Check it out. So I would start out just by breaking this pose into basic shapes, and it's really very straightforward. This is such a straight pose. There's nothing extremely dynamic going on here. It's just a man holding his staff. And we're not going to get extremely detailed here. And let me see, this is kind of where his waist would be, and the tunic goes down here, and the ear is somewhere around here, and that's probably pretty close. And his legs are just straight. This leg is kind of pushing out a little bit here. And well, now I've got this foot crooked. Okay, here. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah. All right. So that's the basic pose, and we've got his staff right about there. Okay. So, and the cloak. We haven't drawn the cloak, but it's kind of hanging out around here, and it comes down with the fringes, and it wraps around his shoulder, and it does kind of that thing. Okay, so we have the basic sketch of the pose as is, right? So how would I push this? I'm going to duplicate this layer and scale this up, and you know what I'm going to do. I am going to utilize some tools here, and I'm going to leave the staff and his hand unselected. I'm selecting everything except for his hand and the staff, because for now I will leave that as is. And you know what I may do? I'm going to, I will separate this so I have that on one layer and this guy on another layer. We are going to select the man, and let me just label these for clarity. Okay, we will select this, and I am going to use these up here in the movement tool, the selection tool. You have a few ways that you can distort and transform your image. I'm going to use this one on the end called warp. I may start, actually let me start with distort, and I'm just going to push things around a little bit to change the angle and distort the image, and then I will use the warp tool and grab on different points, and I'm going to lean him forward a little bit and push. I think I will push his leg out a little bit more. And I want his head to be up a little bit more, and something that we will change later. So this is just the beginning, right? This is still just the sketch. And then I will grab the staff and distort, maybe bring this a little bit like that. Here we go. Just like that. Okay. And then I will merge these layers. So now, this is very subtle. Even now, this is not a lot of movement, but we're going to bring the opacity down and change the blending mode to multiply. And underneath of that layer, I will have a new layer. And let's stick with the same pencil. And you know what I'm going to do? I will start with his head here. And we will use the photo as kind of a guide, along with our distortion sketch layer, as well as a little creativity. To bring this character to life a bit more. And as we're going along, we're not going to follow the sketch 100%. We're going to try and push this a bit more. So for his cape, for example, what I'm going to do is bring his cape out a little bit, and I'll bring his arm out a little bit more as well. Just to get some dynamic motion, hopefully. And then this arm, you see, the sketch is just a guide. This is not a one-to-one blueprint. We don't have to follow it exactly, but it helps guide our process here. Okay, and then I will add the spear later, and I'll make his pants a little more puffy, maybe emphasizing the straps on the legs and the foreshortening on that back leg. There we go. And then maybe make the spear look a little more dangerous here. There we go. his hair a bit more disheveled, like maybe he's been out in the elements a little bit. And then let's grab maybe that's too dark. Let's grab some basic color here. This may still be a little too dark. Yeah, I'm not liking that. Let me try maybe this one. Maybe my wonder marker. Ooh. Here we go. That's much better. Okay, and now, ooh, that's very dark. I need to lighten that up a bit. Yeah, if I were doing this seriously, I would probably play with the colors a bit more. Right now I'm just laying down some basic color. I'm not super happy with those colors, but we're getting the basic idea here. And this exercise is more about the pose than anything anyway. So, and I think we're getting that. Ooh, that's too much. I think we're getting that. Here we go. Yeah, that's too much. We're just gonna leave it like that. But there we go. That's a little more dynamic than the original pose, the straight up and down, where we have a bit more of an angle. And I may even push this a little bit more before, you know, I put in some really fine details with the lines. This is just a sketch. It's just warming up, just getting started. But you can see that you can use these different tools. At first, when I got started with digital painting and digital drawing, I was afraid to like mess up the pixels, and if I didn't make that mark myself, then it was all wrong and I had to start over. And then I started watching illustrators that were really good with photo bashing and transforming tools and pushing the pixels and smearing things, and who cares? Don't be afraid to destroy what you're making in order to make something even more beautiful. That's what we're doing here. It's just part of the process. So I hope this is helpful for you. I hope that you enjoyed this and got something out of it. And if you did, leave a like or a comment. Let me know what you would like to see next. Check out my brushes, the custom brushes that I used in this video. There's a link down in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one.